just in the show which we have now, the third one of the stuff was mine. You might have noticed when I walked by here. I don't know. But right now I'm going to talk about circularity. How many of you are familiar with circularity or circular economy? You can raise hands. Just that I know that. What kind of... okay. So not very many. I have quite a professional approach because I've been making clothing since I was a child. Like, I don't remember a time when I was not doing clothing. And professionally, I've been doing it for 21 years already. So my angle is quite specific in a way, but I try to explain it so that you understand. So the topic is fashion as a driver towards circularity. And what that means, like if we talk about circularity, I can go away from the front. So here is a little like opening of the circularity. So what is this? Basically, circular economy is heading our manufacturing and production towards a time when there is no waste anymore. Very simple. Like the whole system, when we product clothing, for example, of course, it's not only about clothing, it's about everything, all the types of stuff we make. We need to find ways to produce stuff without making so much waste. That's basically it. And as you can see here, there are many things which are like causing the fact that we need to change the production, and that's overcrowding, population growth, climate change, and different kind of other societal problems, for example, polluting our water and stuff like that. But I will explain it a little bit more here later on. So here is some facts of what we are doing right now. And these are quite like, I don't really want to put a bunch of facts in my slides because they are usually boring. And I don't really like to see people snoring when I speak. I might even go and boink on them if they start to sleep. So, but here is two. It's Mother's Day. How many mothers are here? I'm a mother. I have 4 children. That was a good face. Whoa! How many? Still. Mothers are so special, aren't they? Yes. Well, into the facts now. Sorry. So this is really old statistics, but I think we are only getting worse. Like after 2013, I think we have like raised these amounts a lot. So the Environmental Protection Agency reports that like globally there is 15.1 million tons of textile waste generated every year. But that's probably much even more these days. This is quite old. But that's quite a lot of stuff there. What do you think? You can't even imagine like how much of stuff that is. And when the stuff is produced, like clothes for example, there is always at least 15% of the material which is cutting waste, and you don't do anything with that. And you might think like, well, that's not really a big amount of stuff, like it's only 15%, come on, like leftover. But when it goes to landfill, for example, or burning, you cannot get any kind of like replacement for the natural resources which you spend on doing the fabrics and the 15% of the stuff. But I will explain a little bit more of that too later on. And here is a fact, very often when people speak about circularity, they want to talk about water. Water. I only have this one fact, because this is quite, like when I found this, I was quite worried myself. Very often we are speaking about this big lake there in Asia somewhere, this Aral, you know this? Which we had, but we don't have anymore. Like it was the biggest lake in the earth, vanished, gone. But this is even more disturbing. We have 21 groundwater basin, like underground pools of water. 21. And 13 of them are like dramatically going into a state where they cannot produce like any more like water in them. That's quite bad. Because if there is no water underneath, then we are kind of like, well, that's it. Where does it come from anymore? But of course, this is from NASA, so it should be quite like valid information, don't you think? But I'm always a little bit skeptic with everything, so you just have to think through yourself. But that's fact. Then if we talk about circularity, there is some terminology, and these are. So for example, how many of you know sustainable development or sustainability? Yeah, well, this is a really fluffy word. And I mean fluffy, that very often you see this being used even if there is some point in the production line when the manufacturing can be said that it's sustainable, like sustainable, but it can be also that there is none. You can just call anything sustainable, like, because if you think, this is sustainable, yes, I'm doing it, sustainable, but it might not be even that. So, then and these are actually in the order, if we come, like, go back in time, and we come to this point, so how they have been developing. And when I started my own business, Remake, like 10 years ago, this eco-design thing was not very known. Do you know eco-design? Do you know what it means? It means that the products are done so that they don't harm the environment more than they should. So it can be anything which is made like biologically or somewhere like about there. Yes, well, then we have ethicality, sustainability, ecologicality, and this bio thing. And these are like, these don't really have anything to do yet like with circularity. But then when we come to the next point, like when we are talking about upcycling and recycling, then we come to more near to the fact, oh, I'm losing my voice, that's nice. Anyway, then we are coming near to the like circularity side. And then we have this, at least in Finland, like a few years ago, we had this downshifting thing. Everybody was downshifting. Do you know that? It means that you have less stuff. So you are getting rid of the stuff to have less stuff. But I don't know if the people who started this downshifting, no one really have to do this, I warn. I'm not sure that she's, sorry. Come and get some coffee. There's really good coffee here. Did you drink the coffee? It's wonderful. Nespresso. And the aluminum capsules there. What a waste. Beautiful. Anyway, downshifting, yeah, that was less stuff. Then we have like cradle to cradle and cradle to crave. And this means we are in a system which is called cradle to crave. So every single item we produce is supposed to be in the graveyard. It's just a landfill, for example. But the system we need to build up now is cradle to cradle, so that all the resources which are embedded in the items could be reused in some way. What way? Some way. Nobody knows. Like, we are just developing this whole thing. Anyway, then when you talk about circular economy, which is the biggest, that's the whole thing, you can always speak about closed loops, which means that when you have the production line, all the production lines are like loops. They're making this loop, so all the waste they produce, they can reuse in the loop. But I have a really good picture here later on, which will explain it even more. Then we have, this is really important words, pre-consumer and post-consumer. Have you ever heard that? Yes? No? Great. Well, this is good that you haven't heard, because otherwise I could just stop the show. Anyway, pre-consumer means the stuff which has not gone to the consumer yet. So pre-consumer is a phase of production where the stuff didn't yet go to the consumer. And afterwards, there is a post-consumer phase, which basically means second-hand and recycling these days. Huh? Isn't that so? Yeah? Then we have these self-made terms, I would say, like redesign, have you heard it? Then we have reproduction. And of course I had to add this remake there. Very often when people make remakes out of movies, they're like using this term, but actually you can use it in anything which you reproduce. Yes? And this is really important, the next one, life cycle thinking, and this I will explain you a little bit more later. It's very important, but we will get to that very soon. Then we have zero waste. This you have probably heard, zero waste. Yeah, well that's, very often people think that it's only a method when you cut the, like clothes, so you have less than possible the cutting waste which is left over from the cutting phase. But it's also a thinking, like the whole system should work as a zero waste mentality. So in every phase it should be there, not only in the cutting. And then there is dead stock and leftover, and these are two different things. Dead stock is something which is in the pre-consumer phase. It's the leftover clothes from sales, for example. Do you ever think how much of stuff goes into the shop? How much goes away with the consumer? And what's left behind goes where? I think we found the unicorn. Maybe. I don't know where it goes, and nobody seems to know. It doesn't even show up in the amounts when they are calculating the waste amounts. It doesn't show there because it just vanishes. It's not there. The leftover can be anything which is produced in the production, like side waste kind of thing. Then there is cutting waste, which is a leftover material. And then the last one, virgin material and second hand. They are like put together as a pair because they are two different sizes of the clothes. Okay, so this is really important. Change hands. So, how it should work, maybe? Oh yeah, it's this one, sorry. So here, on the left, we see the basic production chain. And I have been doing some teaching in Finland about this. And what I have noticed that even the people who are in the schools to learn how to do clothes or like to design them, they don't know this chain. Can you imagine? So the people who are going to produce your clothes in the future don't even know how the production line goes on their field. Don't you think that's a problem? Like if you think that we should create something which would make this better place, but that this place exists still to our children, and they don't even understand how this system works, that's a problem. But this is the production chain. And upstairs there is this production, and which means also pre-consumer phase. So if we have suppliers, which means the fiber suppliers, the material suppliers and stuff like that, they are producing all the time spinning waste and other kind of leftover materials. So on the right there is always leftover from the section. Then we have manufacturers, and they are producing all the time industry cut waste. And if you're producing many thousand or 10,000 pieces of clothing per day, there is a lot of cutting waste also produced every day. And that's totally usable stuff too. And then Well, this is the saddest part, the retail channel. We don't know where the stuff goes from the shops, like I said. Unsold items from stores, where does it disappear? It just vanishes from thin air. Well, okay, then there is this consumer. And very often when we speak about circularity, there is this question like, is it fault of the consumer or the producer or producer that there is so much waste? It's like this chicken and egg dilemma. And very often it's said like, you know, consumers want this. They just want that we mass produce stuff all the time terribly. Bad quality. No, we don't want that. Do we want that? Who wants that? Bad quality clothes, mass produced. No. Good. Nobody got a sanction. I should have this long, you know. Happily I don't. Anyway, then we move on to the post-consumer part. Do you see the slide from there? Yeah, I'm just going. Nice. So, there is a section here called post-consumer waste section. And basically it means right now that we have cloth collectors, and very often they are like, oh, I know I'm losing the word again. Like free will workers? What do you say there? Volunteer work, yes, it came back to me. And this is a problem then because they are not really professionals on handling the clothes at all. And very often they are not really well paid, of course, because they are doing it by free will. And this, here you can actually see the problem which we have in the industry. It's split into two pieces. We have production and then we have recycling. And if those two don't go together, we are still going to mass produce waste all the time. But next slide will tell a little bit more about that. So after the second-hand chain has been like handling the clothes, finally they go, at least in Finland, they want to make it into electricity by burning, or like heat by burning them. Do you have that here in Netherlands? No? Yeah. You don't really know about these things, do you? Yes, yeah. And then finally, like very often, if you don't have this energy waste or burning part, they go to landfill. That's it. Yeah, there. And this is a really good thing. Life cycle thinking is one of the terms which I said that I will explain. And here is life cycle thinking. It means that we have leadership, and then because of the leadership there, they give an impulse to the design team. They give calculations to the design team. We need this and that kind of product. It needs to make this and that much of money for us. So the design team is doing some production, like designing stuff, which then goes to the line. And wait, I'll click this to the end. Oh yeah, so basically what we need is that when we are here, right now the system works so that we are here and we are looking towards that. But it ends between here, the line. They don't look this as a whole system. They are only thinking of selling the stuff. And afterwards, they don't give a shit, as you could say. Like, they are producing the stuff and then they drop it like, okay, now it's out of our hands, now it's the consumer which has to take care of the stuff. And this needs to change. The people who are producing the clothing, they have to think more further. They have to think the whole cycle of the clothes. What happens to the clothes after the consumer gets rid of it? And for me, at least, when I produce clothing, I would prefer taking my stuff back to me and see if I could use it in some way. Repair it or use it as material or whatever. And if we could have the line fully here, or until here, this bit, this waste bit here, would vanish. We wouldn't have waste in a form that it exists today. Oh, I would have needed some water, I knew this. Anyway, and what needs to happen, this part needs to change too. We have to have this recycling in every second, like every layer of the production, but then also the post-consumer part needs to develop quite a lot. And at least in Finland, it's approximated that we have like $70 million euros of income to make through this part. So we are not talking even with small amounts. Like there is possibilities for businesses quite a lot. Anna, can you go and get me a water? It's nice to have assistant in the row. I'm making her run in between the show. Yes, well, that's it for the circularity. Is it more clear now how it works? And this would be the same if we talk, for example, about furniture. Of course, there is some differences between the fields, like textile fields, or interior field, or car field, or metal. But now I can tell a little bit like what I have done. So this is my favorite slide. I always want to use this because do you think that you are creative personalities or people? Raise your hand. Okay. I think we all are. We are creative beings. Oh, sorry. This has never happened to me that my voice is going down. But I've been staying in the hotel for 3 days, so I don't really like the air conditioning, or my throat doesn't. So, anyway, all the people who say that they are not creative, come on, you are. Just have to use it. Like if you say that I'm not creative, you have not used it. That's all. So you just have to do something. Like I feel like dancing. Well, go ahead and dance. But I like to say, show this fantastic path of creation. How many of you have been in this I am shit part? This is fantastic. Every time we make a collection or like even one clothing, there is always a point in the creation or process like, oh no, this is shit. And then you're like, oh no, is it me who's shit? And then you're like, no, maybe, well, I have to think about it. And then finally, is this other song again? Right, yeah. 2007, I had been home with my 2 first children, and I was really thinking like what I should do, because my firstborn, he wanted to go into the kindergarten already. Wow, that was great. He was like, Mother, I really would like to play with other people too. And I was like, oh no, do I have to go to work? Because we don't really have any kind of jobs in textile industry, at least in Finland. How is it here? How many of you are from here? Hands up? Okay, so you're not from here, great. Well, at least in Finland it's really terrible. We don't really have like spaces. You have to create your own enterprise or become an entrepreneur to build up something where you can use your creativity. Anyway, so 2007 I was home, and for me creativity is something which you have to just listen. You know? Just stop and listen. For example, with me, I had decided like, no, textile and the whole industry is nothing for me. Like, even if I had been doing it for 10 years already at that time, but it was unbelievable. Like, I got a job, but I didn't get it. I got a job, but I didn't get it. It was like this all the time. So I was sitting here with my daughter. She was like 1.5 years old, and I was sitting in this dark bedroom, and I was like totally exhausted. And suddenly, in the darkness, I got this idea. yeah, take the doll out of the closet. Just take it. And I was like, no. This girl, I want to get her to sleep, that I can do something on my own. Yeah? He said, no, take the doll out. Oh, no. I was debating with myself. And finally, I was like, I put Minia to the bed like this, and then I was like, do I really have to do this? And then it was, yes, take the doll out. And it was so funny because I was saying to myself, like, can you make sure that the baby won't wake up for this? Do you know this inner dialogue you have with yourself sometimes? Yeah, well, sometimes you just have to do what it says. Because this is what really happened to me. I took the doll out and I took it to the kitchen, and my ex-man was asking from the sofa, like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. Are you making some clothing? No! And then I was looking at the doll like, well, okay. Nice doll there. How's it going? And what next? And then the voice said like, okay, you know, there is this big scarf in the front room, like in the hall. Go get that. Your old mother, she gave it to you, this big scarf from 90s or something, so it was like 20 years old. I'm like, oh, okay, well, nice. And I went to take it, and Lucy was asking from me again, like, what are you making? What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. So I just put it on the doll, I took my needles and my scissors, and I was doing like this, not thinking at all, I was just doing something. And later on, like 20 minutes after that, I had this nice little small jacket kind of vest thing going on. And I was like, whoa, what happened here? What is this? So I can use old stuff to make new stuff? Wow, this is cool. And I called Pia, the co-founder of Remake, and I just said like, moi, meidän pitää perustaa se firma. And she went like, okay. And until this day, she doesn't know why she said okay, but it was an impulse. And what I asked was like, or I actually didn't ask, I was just like, we need to build up the enterprise now. We need to become entrepreneurs, I have an idea. And she was just like, yeah, okay. I don't know what happened there. A few months afterwards, we had Remake. And here, in this photo, we are holding the opening speech. And for a while, we thought that this is a really funny idea. Like funny. We thought it was funny to do, like remaking things. And this is a funny idea. But the first time, we went to the FIDA, which is this really big, it's like Red Cross, who are like doing the second-hand stuff. They had this, almost this big hall where we went, where they collect the stuff and do the sectioning and everything, you know, with the second-hand. The first time we walked into the hall, have you ever been into this kind of place? No? If not, I would really recommend you to go there, because it's just an eye-opener. We went there and we were standing in the doorway with Pia, and we looked at each other like this, and we were like, oh, this is not a joke. This is a really, really big problem. The hall was full of clothes, piled up with this pressure thing. Like, there was tons and tons and tons of stuff there. And most of it, they can't even sell it. It's like 30% which they can sell locally. The rest is sent out to Africa or somewhere else. Nice. So we're not really recycling. We're only like recycling it into another place, but not really doing anything with the second-hand stuff. Okay. But anyway, let's go further. I wonder what time it is. The guy is not showing me any fingers yet. Good. Anyway, we started Remake, and what we have been doing there is that we repair, we alterate, and we make custom-made stuff out of recycled materials, fabrics, whatever it is. Basically what the customers needs us to do. So here, for example, it's Xavier. He had this jacket from the army, which it was just this boxy thing, so we reshaped it for him, and he wanted some color in it, so we made the blue stuff. Then there is Henry here, and she bought this dress from a second-hand store or vintage store, and we totally remade it again. Like even the sleeves, you can take it off, there is like buttons here, because she wanted to party later on. Oh, well, you know the wedding, they're like that. But then, as we went further, in the beginning, many people were like asking, well, what are you doing? What is this eco-design? Oh, that's a funny idea, and good that you're doing that. It's so cute. Ooh. Oh, that was nice. I'm trying to be a professional entrepreneur, and somebody's like, oh, that's so cute what you're doing. No. Okay, well, let's go. Anyway, from 2007 we got into 2012, we started to make artist work. So, for example, here, I didn't take all of the photos because when I'm talking to Finnish audience, they will know all the people because they are like our headline artists. But here I didn't. I got the feeling that you won't understand if I show a photo of Jenny Vartiainen. Do you know that? Jenny? She's really good. Singing Finnish. Anyway, there is Antti Puisku. He's really, really good. And we made all his this concert stuff clothing for him. And then there is Isu with my overall. And these are all recycled materials. And what I'm trying to say here as I show this kind of artist stuff is that the attitude towards doing something differently, for example, us remaking stuff, it has changed a lot during 10 years. And the attitude towards any kind of new ways of doing things is totally changed. So please, if you have any creativity, just use it and try to find new ways how to do things. Oh yeah. But then came MEM. 2012, I started to make MEM, and it was a result because from this project I was running on the side of my business. I took like 10 young people in a team, it was called Remake, and I tried to coach them to make serial producible clothes from post-consumer waste, which means basically old clothes, like discarded clothing. So yes, finally that didn't work out because I realized that nobody has done this before. Maybe I need to build up and, you know, make some kind of methods how to do it. I cannot just say like, do it! There is material, there is a sewing machine, do it! Because nobody knows how to do it. I know what time it is, you know? Because I have some slides still here, so need to check out. Anyway, then 2012 I started to do MEM, and I had been doing 10 years of customer clothing, so I needed to take time to find my own, like, the form, what I want to make, all the cuts and everything, which you have been seeing, for example, in the show here. And that took quite a long time, and it was not easy for me. Like, even if I had already created this firm which was doing and still doing pioneering work in Finland, still I felt like, okay, can I really do this? This is like, I really need to put myself in the spotlight, and everybody are like, oh, I know she's doing another thing there, huh? And I didn't have any kind of proof that it would be even possible to use post-consumer waste in that way, that you could do the same piece again and again in different sizes. But finally, it has been working out since at least now. Here are the reasons why I do MEM, and I think these are quite good. Like, we need new ways to consume, don't we? But different kinds of forms how to consume. Of course, if we think of ourselves as consumers, well, I hear very often that people say like, well, I don't know what to do, like, do I have to recycle more, or what I need to do? But there is always different kind of ways to do it, but they are quite limited, don't you feel? Like the ways you can participate on, like, less consumer stuff. Of course, well, there are many ways. Then the second reason is we need new ways to reduce waste. So for me, it was totally clear that I wanted to use the waste part of the materials, because that's like somebody has said to it, like, okay, it's dead, bye bye. And I'm thinking, like, if you take, for example, a pair of jeans, is there anybody who knows how many liters of water it consumes when they're like done, like productive? 10,000 liters of water. 10,000. That's quite a lot of water. I don't know, it's like 30 years of water consuming for one person. It's quite a lot. And then when we buy the jeans and just put them somewhere, it's crazy. Anyway, I'm walking there in the beginning. And then we need new ways to save our natural resources, because every time you produce something, especially cotton is the worst, because it consumes a lot of water. So for me, for example, this collection which was shown here before, that was actually the first time I was using upcycled material, which was pre-consumer. So that was not. We showed yesterday 2 shows where it was kind of like a retrospective, because we have made 4 collections already. But this is the process which we are using with them. So first, of course, there is always inspiration in some way. And if we talk about creativity, you have to find a way to get yourself inspired. No matter what you are doing, you need to find a way how you work, how you get inspired. It might be music, it might be nature, it might be meditating or whatever. But anyhow, you have to find an inspiration. Then what I'm doing very often is that I'm doll formatting. Do you understand what it means? So I might have like mannequin, a pile of jeans, and I just take the jeans, I maybe open them for a bit, and then I start to form them on the doll straight up. Because then I see the actual form I'm making. So, at least in Finland, we are basically thought of doing the clothing from patterns. Yeah? So you have like paper, like flat paper, and then you build up the form from that. Well, that's a very good way too, but for example, from Finland, everybody are making this flat clothing like that, because they don't know how to use the form. So by doll draping or crafting or formatting, you will get to know the form much better. And of course, like if you think of how you handle the fabrics, like for example denim, you will feel it in your hands all the time, how it flexes and how you can use it on the doll. And you will see straight up like, oh, do you like it? No, I have to move this here, and then I have to... And this is something which you have to just do. You don't even have to think, it's just like, do it. Okay. After I have been doing these tests of the forms, then I have this knowledge because I have been doing it for so long, so I know what kind of stuff there is in the recycling and what kind of the material flow is. But basically what you would need to do next is check what kind of material flow there is locally where you live. The best way is to, for example, us with men, we get all the materials from Red Cross Helsinki. So we are like, the waste part is produced there where we product it to. So we don't have to logistically move it around big ways. Anyway, then we are going to get raw patterns out of the formatting. Sorry, I jumped. Material check, test pieces should be ready then. Then if we want to make some kind of finishing or something on top of the denim or the material, then we will test it here in the middle. Then we will get raw patterns out of it, which means that we are still like checking out all the measurements and technical side of the pattern in the first phase. And then we will just fix the raw pattern after everything is tested, and we can we always make the clothes ready so we can check that everything is technically working and it's good on you, the clothes. And this is not really being done anymore by the manufacturers who are mass producing. But but mass producing. They are just pushing the stuff through. They're not like testing or thinking. They're just calculating the money. They're not doing actually, they are not doing the clothes for you. Who guesses who they are making it for? Your wallet. They are not thinking about you, like, yeah, this nice little girl here, she needs a new dress. No. This nice little girl, I can take this much of money from her if I make this kind of dress. She wants this, yes. And then the marketing crew are like, oh, everybody needs this kind of dress, yes. Yeah, you want one. Good, honey, ching. So, pattern correction, which I said already, and then pattern grading, which means that we take, for example, us, we have 38 is like M is our test size. Very often the test size is in XS or S, like small size, because it takes less fabric, but we want to make it in normal size, like medium size, because people are normal sized. So we can be sure that it works. And then pattern grading, after we have done that, we normally take the XXL size and test the piece also that it works in the largest possible size, because then all the rest of the sizes will work as well. What's the time?
Almost 30.
Huh? 30. Okay, good. So, that was kind of like the designing part, the last one. But this is the production, how we do it, at least. It's a little bit different from the traditional one. So first, when I have decided that I want to make, for example, this Debian pant, I will know how many jeans I need for making this. So I will just say like, okay, I need to make 5 pairs of Debian's pants. Yes, well, I will need this and that and da da da. So I'll just send an email to Red Cross. Yeah, I need 50 pairs of black jeans, and half of them needs to be without elastan, and half of it can be with elastan. And this is very often like when people are remaking things, they're really specific what kind of material they need. So for example, with denim, the problem is that most of the denim these days, it has elastan in them, which is of course comfortable, but like if you think of, for example, taking the jeans and recycling them into a fiber, you can't get the elastan off from the cotton anymore. So you kind of like destroy the cotton, you can't get the cotton out of it anymore. Okay, so material order, and when we get the stuff to the atelier, we are going to divide it. So we take, of course, like the stuff which has elastan in it, we are going to divide it away because we are using it into different parts of the clothing. For example, in these pants, we use it here upstairs because it makes it much more comfortable to wear. But then, for example, these pieces, they need to be more firm because I need form there. Yes? Then there is filleting. This is really funny. We have like created that word, which means that the jeans which we get in, we need to cut in a specific way to get specific kind of forms out of them. So for example, in these pieces, I have old seams still left here, and they are, like when we have the patterns, we always mark there what needs to happen in the thing. And this is really important, like when I create the form from the post-consumer waste, I'm thinking of the form which already exists. I'm not unraveling the form, I'm reusing the form which already has put into the clothes. So for example, here on the back, this was the crotch, like this part. So I get this nice line like this. And this is something which you don't really learn in the school. This you just have to experience yourself. And there is a lot of form in the clothes. Even if they would be flat like this, there is always some parts which you can use as a new form. Well, yeah. So filleting, which is like making it into a more usable, the material. Then component parting means that, for example, if we are using the jeans, we can take the zippers off. If they are working, we are going to take them into our storage. And why? Well, if I go to this, we have only one like fabric chain or like store which is selling the fabrics in Finland. They are like, there is nobody else. So if I go to Eurokangas and I want to buy a zipper, it's like 250 per each. Of course I can order it from China, but I'd rather not, because then I have to buy like 50,000 of them, so that's a problem. So very often the zippers in the jeans is totally okay. And I'm saving quite a lot of money very fast because we take the zippers off from them. We are not actually parting them off, we are just cutting the whole slit and putting it in storage. And they are very standardtic, like specifically like long. And they are quite the same colors also. So for example, Taito pants, this really thin pants which we have, or slim pants, they have like zippers here. So all that zippers, they came from old jeans. I don't need to buy any new. Then there is refining, which means, for example, yesterday when we were showing samurai pieces, they have this pattern on them. And why? Of course, it's a visual thing, but what we noticed when we did this net kind of pattern there, it's actually building it up again. Like if there is any kind of like flaws already, it will build it up again. It will make it more firm. So we were like, okay, so this is not only to make the stuff beautiful, this is also like kind of remaking them or giving them a new life through that. But it can be also different kind of things. You can shred or make different kind of like surface structures on it. This is very often people, at least in Finland, they are talking about tuning. You have heard of tuning? Tune the cars and tune this. Well, for me, for example, this kind of crafting stuff, it's nice, but we need to do it a little bit more professionally. So, finishing, then there is refining, then cutting, then of course the basic sewing part. So only difference which how we work is that the first part here is different. But then when we go to cutting and sewing and finishing and back and deliver, that's totally the same. So we are kind of making a fusion out of the new way of doing and the old way. So we can take all the parts which are already working in the old way of production stuff and then just fine-tuning it into more sustainable. Okay. So we have done 4 collections. First one was 2014, and we are not using this SSAV thing. So summer, spring, summer, autumn, winter. You know this basic thing that you have cycles in the system. We are doing 1 collection per year, and very often the pieces are around 8 to 14 in between that. So there is not very much of pieces in the collection. But when we make a new collection, we are seeing like the old pieces which we have, and if there is a double and it has not been selling, we are going to replace it with a new piece which is like more enhanced than the old one. So the first was done for reality and it was launched in 2014. Then I made asexual, which was a unisex thing, and actually as you saw here, the stuff is really unisex. Actually, the unisex is not really far from making clothing to men or female. Like, there isn't very much of a difference. You have to, there is certain points, but it's not so far. Like, people might think that must be totally different, but it's not. It's really not. Then we made Samurai, 2016, and it was the first one where we used the print. And I was like, okay, this is a really good way to make the denim look really nice. And actually, the collection, what we are doing now, is combining all the information which we have been building up in these 4 previous collections. Like the first 2 ones, they were black. They were shown yesterday at the daytime. They are made out of denim, cotton, jersey and some leftover like leather jackets. They have these effect pieces, I call. So it will make it more like look nicer. Yes? Then asexual was quite the same, but I wanted to make a little more rougher form because I had gotten used to the fact that I was creating clothes, so I wanted to be a little bit more brave. So we made a big hoodie and stuff like that, which was really weird looking. But actually, the difference for the first one was only that we made it to fit also to men. That was the difference. Then to SMR we made the prints, and Revolt, which we did last year. Actually, the pieces you saw were made to Helsinki Fashion Week last year. We only colored them for this show, and then we made a few pieces more. But they are actually the ones which were like before, like the, how would you say, like the haute couture pieces of the serial productable stuff. But that was shown yesterday. But you can find it still online and stuff, so you can see it. But Revolt and Samurai, they were made totally out of denim. Nothing else, only denim. And as said, for collections, right now we are selling 38 pieces, so it's quite a large thing. It's not like few pieces. You can really, there is a lot to choose from. Look at this number. I was talking about actually this comes from MIPS. Do you know what that means? It means that all the natural sources can be calculated how much, for example, cotton. If you take 1 kilogram of cotton, it will use, when it's produced, a certain amount of water, air, and earth. So it's called MIPS, which means material input per service or units. So all the natural sources which are put into a piece, they can be calculated out. So when we are taking the waste part, using the leftover waste, we can actually get double saved large numbers out of them, because we are not producing a new one from virgin material. We are saving the one from the virgin material, but we are also saving the ones which would otherwise be in landfill. You get it? So we get double MIPS for men. And no other serial producible collection has ever done that. So as said, we have 38 pieces. If we make one from each of those 38 pieces, so we make 38 clothes, it will save this amount of water. That's crazy. So please, do more of this. I want competition. Okay. One speciality which we have been doing with men is that the guarantee thing is really hard. Of course, if we would produce even more bigger amounts of stuff, this would become harder. But until now, we can do this. First, we have 6 months of guarantee, which means that, because when you are buying the stuff, of course, you know that it's recycled stuff, so it makes you a little anxious, like, will it hold and last and stuff? So we gave this 6 months guarantee, but then finally I was like, I don't give a shit, like, let's put 12. Because anyway, during the past 5 years, do you know how many pieces we got back to repair? 2. When you know the technique of building a clothes, when you know the structure, when you know how it needs to work, you can build and construct the clothes that they last. And you can construct the clothes so that you can repair them really easily. So this has been a really good thing for us to have this 12-month guarantee. And it can be that the seam opens or that the fabric goes bad. Anything happens to the stuff, we repair, no problem. So, this was it for my show. Thank you for listening, and hope you are totally enlightened after this one. There was a lot of information, and soon they will probably start the last show, so I just wish you a really nice rest of the day, and
go ahead and visit our page and stuff. So thank you all.